So I'm sure all of you have heard of the saying, learn from your own mistakes. It's the most basic thing you've heard out there. And it is true, you should always learn from your own mistakes. Every time you make a mistake, you shouldn't just move on from that mistake. Like, okay, I made the mistake, let's just move on and keep trying. If you keep trying without having learned from that past mistake, it won't matter. You will repeat that mistake and you will stay at square one. You'll be stuck at square one. You have to learn from your mistakes before you can move forward and try again. You can't make a mistake, then move forward and try again without learning from the mistake, without reassessing it and reflecting on it and reevaluating it, and then trying again. It doesn't make any sense because you are bound to repeat the mistake if you don't evaluate the mistake and assess the mistake and look into it. Where did you go wrong? What did you do wrong? What can you do better next time? And so on and so forth. You always have to do that when you make a second try. Because if you don't do that, then the second try will be the same as the first one. You will have learned nothing and you will move on to the next try and you're bound to fail again, most likely making the same mistake. But an even better way to operate in life and move forward without having to make mistakes yourself, because at the end of the day, you're still going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. Whatever happens, you're always going to make mistakes. However, you can minimize mistakes by simply learning from other people's mistakes. Because there are people ahead of you right now who have made the mistakes that you're probably going to make in the future. So if you can look at these mistakes that people have made and learn from them instead of having to do them yourself, then you can save yourself a lot of headache and heartache. You're still bound to make a lot of mistakes despite, seeing someone else having done a mistake that you're likely going to make in the future. You're probably still going to make that same mistake regardless of the fact that you've kind of observed someone else do it. But you can minimize the downfall of each mistake, but also you can avoid some of them, minor mistakes that you don't have to do to level up. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to make mistakes in order to level up. Even if we've seen someone else commit the same mistakes, we're still going to be in a position where we have to make them on our own to be able to level up. But some of them are so small and so inconvenient that they don't give you much back, and you can avoid these mistakes altogether by simply observing what other people are doing and learning from them. Right? And that's a life hack that I've come to think about. When you're doing things in life, when you're acting, when you're chasing a goal, and you see someone else who has already reached that goal, you can look at what they did or what went wrong for them and what part of the journey that they stumbled and fell, where they had difficulties, and you can see how you can avoid that on your own when you do the same things, right? And that can help you minimize a lot of the mistakes. You're still going to make some mistakes, that's inevitable, but you can still minimize the gravity of some of them. That's the key of looking into what other people are doing, people who are where you want to be, looking at their mistakes, the mistakes they've done, and trying to avoid them or at least minimize the impact of them when you go through the same journey. It's as simple as that. So the first step is obviously learning from your own mistakes. If you don't do that, you're retarded. Like the definition, like doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. That's a famous quote I'm sure all of you have heard. And it's true. If you've tried and you've failed, you can't try again unless you've reassessed the failure and the mistake. Otherwise, you're bound to make the same mistake again. And I've done this in the past myself, where I've made a mistake, I've just moved forward from it because it hurt my ego too much, and I kind of wanted to forget about it. Like, I just made this mistake, it fucking hurt my ego, and I don't want to think about it anymore. Instead of thinking, okay, I have to reassess this mistake so that I don't make it again, I just moved on from it and I tried again, and then I failed again, doing the same thing. So the first step is always learning from your own shit. But the second step is even more efficient. Learning from other people's mistakes. Seeing what they do and seeing how you can avoid what they've done. Let's say you want to become a video editor and you're following a mentor that's mentoring you on how to build a successful video editing business. And this mentor has stumbled upon XYZ problems. And they tell you, these are the problems I stumbled upon, and this is how you can avoid these problems. Then you listen to that person to try to avoid them. You're still likely to stumble upon some of these problems and make some of these mistakes, but you can still minimize the gravity of that. And that's what I'm trying to tell with this video, guys. So obviously, when you're making a mistake, always reassess it, but also observe what other people are doing, especially people that are where you want to be at. Whether that's, practicing a specific profession, or, the amount of money they have, the amount of status, whatever it may be that they have that you want, look at where they fell and where they failed and try to avoid it, or at least minimize the impact of it. That will significantly lower the headache and maybe eliminate it altogether of all the failures and all the frustrations that come with it. You can literally make the process way more pleasant if you just observe what other people are doing. If you're trying something entirely new that there is no documentation of from anyone else doing, then you're bound to make a lot of mistakes that you can't learn from other people in advance, right? If you're inventing something new or trying out an entirely new business model, whatever it may be, you're likely to make a lot of mistakes and find yourself going through a lot of headache because you can't observe what someone else has done in the past and kind of learn from that. But if you're practicing a standard or common skill or profession, then it's easier to see what other people have done and kind of learn from that. So observe that if you want to minimize headache and frustrations. But most importantly, the main thing is learning from your own mistakes. So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about, guys. I hope you got some value out of that. Whenever you're trying something new, always think steps ahead. Look at where someone is that you want to be at. Look at what mistakes they've done and see how you can avoid them or minimize them to the best of your ability. And I'm sure the process and the entire grind will be way more pleasant for you than if you would have just went at it without observing what other people are doing. So I hope you got some value out of that. And as always, I'll see you next time. Cheers.